Paying living wages is a serious business. It has wide ramifications within a company and outside. Let us see which are the most important. For reference, we take the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs, of the United Nations. These SDGs should be achieved by 2030. Living wages affect at least 6 of those. Sustainable Development Goal number 1 says no poverty. A living wage, by definition, reduces poverty in families. SDG number 10 aims to reduce inequality. Clearly, if all working individuals earn a living wage, inequality at the lower end of the labour market is reduced, and this is where it matters most. Number 5, gender equality, means to pay working women, working mothers in particular, a living wage too. This certainly is a master move, because by making women financially independent, their children benefit, in particular girls, who after their school years are likely to become well-educated working mothers in their turn. A self-propelling cycle is set in motion. A living wage also means money to stay healthy, and good health fosters well-being. A living wage certainly makes for decent, more stable labour relations. This in turn means less conflict on the shop floor, less reasons to strike, more reasons to stay loyal to the company, less turnover of the workforce, less cost for recruitment and training of newcomers, higher productivity. And, maybe less obvious, SDG 16, peace, justice and strong institutions. A living wage and decent work mean that labour rights are respected and put into practice. This is a strong contribution to stability and the rule of law in any country. Thus, by paying a living wage to all, the world becomes a better, less disruptive place to live in, as the global goals set by the United Nations are hopefully approached step by step, company after company. Experiences with implementation of living wages in companies tell us that it is necessary to prepare well. The implementation of living wages is complex and has many effects. It is therefore good policy to discuss the introduction of living wage in a company at length with staff, employees, departments like HR, compensation and benefits, human rights and corporate social responsibility. In some cases, also suppliers might be involved. This whole operation takes quite some time, at least 1 year or even longer, depending on the size and complexity of the company. And it will probably cost money too. To find out how much money, one has to compare living wages with existing pay scales. Most companies thus far use the typical living wage benchmark as the starting point for their calculation. The typical family living wage reflects cost of living levels in a region. It assumes 2 working adults in the family plus the number of children based on the fertility rate. The average number of children a woman is typically expected to have. 1 adult is assumed to work full-time, and the working hours of the second adult are approximated by the employment rate. The total income earned by these 2 adults is sufficient for a decent living standard of their family. Against this benchmark of decency, earnings of employees below this living wage level stand out clearly as insufficient, and the difference may be calculated. But what if one would want to set up a business in a new country? The territory is unknown. A risk assessment is needed. Is the labour law problematic? There still are such countries: Myanmar, Ethiopia, China, Bolivia, Pakistan and Nigeria, to name just a few. And if the company wants to pay a living wage, what is presently the legal minimum wage paid there? And how large is the pay gap to bridge? Yet another example of what can be done tailor-made comes from the gig economy. Here a company does not employ personnel because it operates a platform. But it still wants to pay its workers decently. Then what should be the hourly rate? And what about additional expenses? So the first answer was to use the living wage benchmark combined with the wages of employees in similar jobs. And on top, expense allowances should be added for job-related costs incurred by the gig workers. In the case of a delivery platform, this meant data of costs for delivery by car, scooter and bike, as well as the use of a cell phone. All tools brought in by the delivery workers themselves. What do these few examples and experiences teach us? Well, to say the least, living wage is no longer just a concept, an idea. Living wage is alive and making headway. It offers a way out and a way up. It pushes up the bottom line and sets pay structures on the move.